Here comes Fat Albert right here, flown by our all-marine crew. Flying Fat Albert today is Major Drew Hess.
Now, how many are on board Fat Albert during any performance?
We have 2 pilots flying pilot, co-pilot seats, and we have 5 air crew in the back, all of them from the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah.
Now, this is the plane that takes all of the equipment for the Blue Angels performances from city to city. But it's still part of the show as well.
That's it. We require a lot from Fat Albert. Fat Albert has been, the C-130 has been part of our show since 1970, and Fat Albert is a great aircraft. C-130s are great aircraft. It carries all of our materials, all of our maintenance equipment, and then our maintenance crew as well to each show site. And then, as soon as he gets unloaded, we send him up in the air to perform.
Unless you have seen Fat Albert in one of these demonstrations before, you can't imagine how such a large aircraft can do the kinds of things that this bird can do.
They really do. They have that large wingspan and those powerful motors, and they will just cut through the sky really well. And our pilots will show you that today in these profiles. And I tell you, Fat Albert is a crowd pleaser. It's only really about 8 to 10 minutes of our show, the beginning parts of our show. But I have a 4-year-old son, and I tell you, my wife had a chance to ride on Fat Albert one time, so that's Mommy's airplane. And normally, once Fat Albert is done, he's done. He's seen enough.
Now, they don't take Mommy on the kinds of maneuvers that Fat Albert will do in this performance?
As a matter of fact, they took her on a full performance with a jet-assisted takeoff as well.
Wow. And she enjoyed it?
She had a great time, filmed every bit of it, and she had the pleasure of going with Major Hess's wife when they went and flew together, and they videoed the entire thing.
Just like the Blue Angels performance, everything that we see Fat Albert do, there's a reason for it, right? Because the Navy has certain specifications as to what its aircraft have to be able to do in combat situations.
That's correct, sir. As a matter of fact, you're going to see a high-performance climb right now, placing the nose of the aircraft in a 45 degrees nose-up attitude. And what that is designed to do is allow the aircraft to take off from short or unimproved airstrips. And if you can think about our current duties in Afghanistan and Iraq, that is sometimes the case where they have to take a big pitch like this, 45 degrees nose-up, and get out of an airfield.
Better have everything tied down in the back.
That's it, yes, sir.
And then climbs and levels off. By the way, does Fat Albert operate over the same basic center point that the Blue Angels will?
We do. We fly the same aerobatic box, which is something granted to us by the Federal Aviation Administration for the air shows. And in those boxes, we're allowed to go aerobatic and basically crack the rings to the required degrees.
So you mentioned that Fat Albert is loaded up with all the equipment. What kind of equipment? What travels from city to city?
I tell you, we stuff everything on 6 big pallets, and I'm talking huge, and they roll on the back of the C-130 and really fill it up. But we're talking about everything from tools to different parts of aircraft, avionics. The funniest thing I've seen is we have a drawer labeled United States Marine Corps, and it's locked, so I tell everybody that's where they keep the donuts. But we just bring everything you can possibly imagine. Video equipment, you'll see out there on the log boom. We have a communications card and a video recorder guy that will film the entire demonstration so that we can go back and debrief it right after the performance.
That is the center point barge, by the way, out on the lake. Don't see any other pleasure craft around that. Everyone stays clear, I assume.
That is true, and as a matter of fact, only essential personnel are allowed out close to that center point during the show. And what they'll do is from the air, they'll spot that center point barge and line up with it, and that's how they'll run these maneuvers inboard there.
And the next one that we're going to see from Fat Albert?
This is a neat parade pass. We like this very much because it gives you a chance to see the banking angle of the Blue Angels C-130 Fat Albert right there. That's a nice bank for such a big aircraft, really close to the water. It's a great photo shot there. Marine Corps parade pass.
You get an idea of how big that plane is when you put it up on its wing like that and fly it past the grandstand here in the shoreline.
Most definitely. Sometimes the pilots will let me come up front and yank and bank that thing a little bit just in transit. And it is a heavy aircraft.
Is it a fly-by-wire?
It is, yes, sir. And it is, you can hear all the good movements of the wires and pulleys happening as you kind of maneuver the aircraft a little bit. And I tell you, those guys are trained really well for this great aircraft, this great asset of the Navy and Marine Corps.
Is there a reason why? Is it always been specific Marines flying Fat Albert?
Well, the Navy actually flies in the Navy Reserve. We fly C-130s, but actually active duty, we don't fly the C-130s. The Marine Corps does, largely based on their logistics. And of course, most of the Navy aircraft are aircraft that you can fly off of carriers.
Right.
Not all of them, but most of them. So the Navy relies heavily upon Marine Corps C-130s, and of course our reserve C-130s in the Naval Reserve. We have a lot of good working relationships with our good buddies in the Air Force as well that also actively fly the C-130.
When we were down at Boeing Field and we had a chance to chat with the boss a little earlier this week after one of the practice sessions, I was amazed at the number of people wearing the blue jumpsuits, not necessarily the flyers, but just all of those who were involved with the Blue Angels who were there, the ground personnel and the like.
That's right. We have 16 officers, sir, and they'll all be dressed in the same blue flight suit. Of course, 1 through 6 fly in the show. Number 7 and number 8 make up your narration team. Then we have the 3 Marine Corps pilots that fly C-130. After that, we have 5 support officers, and they range from our squadron's executive officer, who basically keeps the train on the tracks. We have a maintenance officer, a flight surgeon, if you will. We have our own flight doc. We have a supply officer, can't fly without supply. And we also have a public affairs officer who specializes in helping to get us in front of the cameras, helping to get the Navy and Marine Corps message out, and also just helping in our general message, which is really one of inspiration. We hope to inspire young men and women to pursue careers in the United States Navy and Marine Corps, but we also just want to inspire folks just to be whatever they can be, to be better at it.
And we'll talk about it during the actual Blue Angels performance, but it was one of the things that Captain Mannix really wanted to talk about, the importance of what the Navy Blue Angels can do, what the Navy Flyers can do, what the Marines can do, and what it is to be a member of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Yes, sir, and it's such an important thing this day and time, and I think it's, my father, had he lived, he would have been really proud to see the state of the armed services these days, because it is a complete volunteer force. Every man and woman in the armed forces these days have volunteered to be there, and they're doing the great work of the country.
Now, I hope you don't mind me calling you Dan.
Not at all.
But how does a guy who graduates from the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts become number 8 on the Blue Angels?
Well, if you're like me, nobody else would hire me, so the Navy did. No, I came from a military family, and I always knew I wanted to. I wanted to join the military. I wanted to serve my family and serve my country, and this was my best opportunity to do so. So I joined Naval Aviation, and I was very fortunate to get the chance that I got to be an aviator and to do this job specifically.
Well, it's quite a job when you consider that you could be doing Shakespeare somewhere, that now you're here talking to us about Fat Albert.
Well, I tell you, I was able to study music in undergraduate school as well, and I completed my graduate school studies there in London, and came back and worked professionally for about 3 years before I joined the Navy. But again, I was very fortunate that they were able to give me the opportunity to come here and to join the naval service and to serve for 10 years so far.
Well, that's Lieutenant Daniel McShane, and he will be staying along with us as the Blue Angels have just taken off from Boeing Field. We will be watching their spectacular demonstration over the shores of Lake Washington.